Emotional maturity means seeing the full picture, not just the words someone says, but the pain behind them, not just the action, but the reason. And sometimes that reason has nothing to do with you. Maybe they were never taught how to communicate. Maybe they never saw love handled right. Maybe they've never felt truly heard. When you understand that, it doesn't make you soft, it makes you steady. Exploding feels good in the moment. It releases pressure. It feeds the ego, but it leaves damage behind, inside you and around you. Understanding before you explode isn't weakness. It's discipline. It's self-awareness. It's choosing to be bigger than the moment and smarter than the emotion. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply, but you refuse to let the outcome control you. People get that twisted. They see someone calm, composed, unmoved, and they call it cold. But detachment isn't about being numb. It's about being wise. It's about knowing that your peace, your purpose, your energy cannot be tied to things or people you cannot control. When you're truly detached, you don't chase, you don't beg, you don't force situations to fit. You show up with love, with effort, with honesty, but if it's not returned, you let it go without losing yourself. That's power. The type of emotional discipline most never master, because the ego wants to grip, to control, to manipulate, but the soul knows when to release. There's a big difference between walking away and shutting down. Detachment is walking away with understanding. Indifference is walking away with bitterness. Detachment says, I see what's happening, I understand what it means, and I'm choosing not to let it damage my center. You don't shut off your emotions, you just don't let them run wild every time the world doesn't go your way. Some people will try to make you feel guilty for protecting your peace. They'll say you're distant, say you've changed, say you're heartless. But that's just projection. The truth is, they're not used to boundaries. They're not used to someone who refuses to be emotionally hijacked. Detachment isn't about pushing people away. It's about knowing when someone is pulling you away from yourself. To detach is to reclaim your power. It's to say, I will not be held hostage by circumstances or emotions that don't serve me. That doesn't mean you stop feeling. That means you stop being owned by those feelings. It means you create space between stimulus and response. You observe before you absorb. You decide before you dive in. The storm may still come. People may still act out. Life will still throw its curveballs. But when you've learned detachment, none of it shakes your foundation. You're grounded in something deeper. You're not floating with every wave. You're anchored. And from that place, you can love fully, speak clearly, move wisely, without being consumed by the chaos around you. Anyone can raise their voice. That takes no discipline, no strength, no vision. But raising your standard, that's different. That's leadership. That's maturity. That's saying, I don't need to yell to be heard. I don't need to lose my cool to make my point, because when you really know who you are and what you stand for, you don't argue for respect, you command it. Raising your standard means choosing what you tolerate. It means deciding what kind of energy you allow into your space, what kind of conversations you engage in, what kind of behavior you accept from yourself and others. And when you operate at a higher level, you stop getting dragged into petty battles. You're not shouting across the table, you're sitting at a different one entirely. You have to understand people will try to pull you down to their level. The louder they get, the more they want to see you break character, because once you match their volume, their chaos, their disrespect, they got you. Now you're playing their game. But when you keep your voice steady, your posture calm, and your tone low, it throws them off. That quiet strength, that's the standard. There's something powerful about someone who can keep their peace when everything around them is chaos. That kind of self-control is rare. That kind of presence makes people stop and think. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. You don't have to get the last word. Sometimes the loudest message is delivered in silence. Sometimes your boundaries speak louder than your voice ever could. You raise your standard by the way you carry yourself, by the choices you make when no one's watching, by the way you protect your name, your time, your purpose. You don't settle for disrespect. You don't explain your worth. You show it. You live it. And the right people, the right situations, they rise to meet you. The rest fall away. Let them. Standards are not about perfection. They're about alignment. They're about making sure your life reflects your values, your character, your calling. And once you set them, you don't bend them to make people comfortable. You don't compromise to keep peace, because any peace that requires you to lower yourself is not peace. It's control dressed up as calm. Peace isn't just a feeling, it's a force. It's a presence that walks into a room before you say a word. It's the stillness that makes people lean in, not because you're loud, but because you're grounded. When you truly find peace within yourself, you stop chasing validation, stop reacting to nonsense, and stop letting outside noise drown out your inner truth. That's not just peace, that's power. There's nothing more dangerous to a chaotic world than a person who's unshakable. Because when you're calm, when you're centered, they can't bait you. They can't confuse you. They can't use your emotions against you. That kind of peace isn't given. It's built brick by brick, moment by moment, through storms you chose to walk through instead of run from. That peace, it's earned. People will call you too calm, too quiet, too chill. What they really mean is they can't control you. They can't disturb what they didn't create. And when someone can't shake you, they start to question themselves. That's the shift. That's when the power moves from the noise to the stillness. The loudest person in the room isn't the strongest, the most centered one is. Peace gives you clarity. It gives you range. You don't just see the moment, you see beyond it. You're not wrapped up in the heat of the emotion. You're watching it from above, choosing how you want to respond, if at all. And in a world full of triggers, that clarity becomes your advantage. That awareness becomes your weapon. That stillness becomes your strategy. But understand this, peace has to be protected. Not everyone deserves access to it. Some people feed off drama. Some situations exist just to pull you out of character. And when your peace is shaky, everything else is shaky too. Your decisions, your relationships, your focus, it all suffers. So when you protect your peace, you're protecting your future. You're defending the foundation you stand on. You don't have to announce your peace. You don't have to prove it. It speaks for itself. It shows up in the way you carry your silence, in the way you choose your words, in the way you refuse to let temporary people create permanent damage, because once you've tasted real peace, you won't trade it for ego, for noise, or for approval. Let me tell you something real. Every single day, you are handed a choice. Not by the world, not by the people around you, but by that voice inside your chest that asks, how will you respond? Life doesn't come with a script. People will come at you sideways, they'll test you, they'll poke, they'll prod, and they'll try to write your lines for you. But you hold the pen. You're the author of your reaction, and that's a power no one can take unless you give it away. You can't control how people treat you. You can't predict what they'll say, what mood they'll show up in, or what demons they're battling, but you can control whether you carry their weight or not. You can't control if their chaos becomes your storm. Just because someone throws a flame doesn't mean you have to catch fire. You can look them dead in the eye, keep your peace, and move like water. Unbothered, unburned, untouchable. Anger is real, but so is restraint. And what most folks don't realize is that anger doesn't explode. It builds. It waits. It grows in silence when you give others control over your mind. So stop letting people rent space in your head for free. Stop handing them the keys to your emotions just because they knocked on your ego. That's not strength. That's surrender. Control doesn't always look loud. It doesn't always come with a speech or a statement. Sometimes control is silence. Sometimes it's a calm breath in a room full of noise. Sometimes it's walking away, not because you couldn't win the fight, but because the fight was never worth winning. You don't prove your power by reacting. You prove it by choosing not to. See, discipline is the real flex. Discipline says, I'm not here to dance for your drama. Discipline says, my peace is too expensive for your pettiness. When you realize that you are always in control, even when life feels like it's spinning, that's when you stop being a victim of the moment. That's when you become the master of it. You want freedom? That's where it starts. Not with money, not with status, not with applause, but with control. Emotional control, the ability to stand in the middle of madness and not flinch. The ability to know who you are so deeply that no one's opinion, no one's insult, and no one's energy can pull you out of character. Because once you learn how to control yourself, no one else can. They don't teach you this in school. Nobody pulls you aside and says, hey, you don't have to react to everything. But the truth is, every reaction is a choice. You might feel anger rise, you might feel disrespected, embarrassed, cornered, but that feeling is not your reaction. That's just the spark. What you do with it, that's the fire. And that fire is yours to control, not theirs. People will try you on purpose. They'll push buttons you didn't even know you had. And if you're not grounded, if you haven't built yourself from the inside out, you'll hand over your power in a heartbeat. One text, one comment, one look, and suddenly they're driving your emotions like they paid for them. That's not strength. That's emotional autopilot. You got to learn how to hit the brakes. Step back, breathe, think. Because once you react without intention, you've given them what they came for. You've given them your energy, and energy is your currency. So spend it like it matters. Not everything needs a response. Not every situation requires your energy. Sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all. You ever seen a lion respond to every bark in the jungle? No. A lion doesn't turn its head for noise. It moves with purpose. Same goes for you. Just because someone's loud doesn't mean they're right. Just because they're in your face doesn't mean they're worth your time. You got to know the difference between a threat and a distraction. One deserves strategy, the other deserves silence. It's not weakness to stay calm. That's power under control. That's knowing the battlefield and choosing not to fight every war. A reaction that comes from ego will cost you every time. But a reaction that comes from wisdom, that's a whole different level of strength. That's a man or woman who's been tested and decided, I don't move unless I choose to. So the next time someone tries to pull you out of character, remember your reaction is never automatic. It's a decision, and every decision tells the world who's really in control. Not them, you. Peace isn't just silence. It's not just the absence of noise or conflict. Peace is clarity. It's stability. It's the quiet confidence that no matter what's going on outside, you're solid on the inside. And in a world that thrives on drama, confusion, and noise, peace is rare, which means it's valuable, which means it needs to be protected like it's gold. Not everybody deserves access to your energy. Not every conversation deserves your voice. Some folks show up with chaos in their hands and confusion in their mouths, hoping you'll match their energy. But when you've built something sacred inside you, you don't let just anyone walk through the doors of your mind. That's like letting muddy boots step into a temple. You stop them at the door. No explanation necessary. You see, peace isn't passive. It's not weak. It's not soft. Peace is earned. Peace is fought for. Peace is chosen every single day. And the people who have it, they worked for it. They removed themselves from situations that didn't feed their spirit. They learned how to say no without guilt. They learned that some invitations aren't worth accepting, even if they come with a smile. There are some people who only call when they need to vent, complain, or dump their weight on you. That's not connection, that's extraction. And if you're not careful, they'll turn your peace into their personal dumping ground. You're not a trash can. You're not a therapist for people who don't want to heal. If they're not bringing light, love, or growth, they don't need a seat at your table. You don't owe anyone access. Read that again. You don't owe anyone access to your calm, your time, your attention, or your energy. Boundaries are not walls. They're gates, and you control the lock. Protecting your peace means being okay with disappointing people who were never invested in your well-being in the first place. If they're offended by your boundaries, they were benefiting from your lack of them. So when you feel that tension creeping in, when you sense that someone or something is pulling you out of alignment, pause and check in. Is this helping me grow? Is this feeding my spirit? Or is this draining me, distracting me, and disconnecting me from who I really am? There's a moment right after the trigger, right before the reaction, that most people never see. Small is quiet, but it's powerful. That moment is the pause. And if you can learn to live in that space, even just for a second, you shift everything. Because in that pause, you're not a slave to emotion. You're the one steering the ship. People think strength is loud. They think it's about being quick with a comeback, fast with the fists, sharp with the words. But real strength is the ability to wait, to breathe, to see the fire and not throw gas on it. Anybody can snap, anybody can explode, but not everybody can pause. Not everybody can hold still when the heat rises. The pause is your power. It's your shield. It's the gap between what they say and what you do. That space, tiny as it is, can be the difference between regret and respect. And if you can train yourself to go there, to find that moment and sit in it, you take the wheel back from emotion. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. That's a whole different level of living. Most of the time, it's not the situation that causes the damage. It's how we react to it. It's what we say when we're not thinking. It's what we do when we're running hot. And once it's out there, it's out there. Words don't have a rewind button. Actions don't come with a delete key. But the pause is your filter. It gives you a second to ask yourself, is this who I want to be right now? You got to understand, the world will test you. Every chance it gets, people will push, not because they're evil, but because they're wounded. Hurt people. And if you meet that hurt with more hurt, all you're doing is feeding the fire. But if you pause, if you give yourself even one deep breath before you move, you change the outcome, not just for them, but for yourself. Mastering the pause means mastering yourself. It means knowing that you don't have to answer every challenge, fight every battle, or clap back every time someone tries to pull you out of character. Sometimes the greatest flex is stillness. Sometimes the most powerful move is restraint. And if you can own that pause, you can own the moment. Before the anger, before the yelling, before the door slams and the bridge burns, there's always a chance to understand. Most people don't take it. They go straight from trigger to eruption, no questions asked. But if you can learn to slow down and look deeper, you'll realize something. Most of the time, it's not about you. People don't always act from logic. They act from pain, from fear, from patterns they haven't healed yet. When someone disrespects you, it's easy to take it personal. When someone comes at you sideways, it's natural to feel attacked. But pause and ask yourself, what's behind their behavior? What are they carrying that you can't see? Because a lot of folks walk around like ticking time bombs, loaded with trauma, shame, insecurity, and regret. And when you cross their path, they don't see you. They see a mirror. And mirrors make people uncomfortable. Understanding doesn't mean accepting abuse. It doesn't mean justifying bad behavior. It means being wise enough to recognize that the explosion you're witnessing is often a result of years of pressure they never dealt with. You just happen to be there when the cracks show. And if you take it personal every time, you'll live in a constant state of war with people who are already battling themselves. See, when you respond with fire, you join their storm. But when you respond with clarity, with perspective, you stay above it. That doesn't mean you don't defend yourself. That doesn't mean you stay quiet. But it means you choose your response based on truth, not impulse. And truth often says, this isn't about me, this is about something deeper. That kind of wisdom gives you power, because now you're not just reacting, you're reading the room.